Welcome to Books Are Good Medicine, a podcast sponsored by the Shakopee Mdewakanton Sioux community, featuring books and other Native American-focused teaching resources. We are your hosts, Odia Wood-Krieger
and Allison Waka. Books for middle schoolers often center on themes of adventure and friendship. Students in these grades are also developing problem-solving skills and discussing more complex topics in social studies and English language arts.
In this episode, we share our picks for the top Native American books that every middle school library should have. Enjoy. Well, good afternoon, Allison.
Hi, Odia.
I always feel like we need to start like that, even though it might be a little repetitive for listeners. But
yeah.
I just love our time together, and we get this sort of private time without guests to talk about some of our favorite books.
Yes, this is our favorite thing to do. Yes.
And if folks remember, in the way back in the archives,
so long ago,
we talked about elementary books, episode 4, which is crazy to think about that we've been doing it this long.
Yeah.
But one of the things, as you know, people keep saying is, where's that middle school list?
Yes.
And as a little sneak peek, high school is coming up.
Yeah.
And so put a little pin in that in your
to-do list at that.
Right. And so, again, we schlepped in a whole bunch of books. Don't ask bibliophiles to roll in with, 5 of their favorites because we
pretty impossible
do ourselves.
So what do you have for middle schoolers there, Odia?
Oh my gosh. So it was fun to see your list because, I got to preview yours.
I had the wrong day. Yeah.
And so it was fun to see what you were bringing. So then I tried to differentiate a little bit. I wanted to make sure that, and I know I've talked about these in the past, but I wanted folks to see Fatty Legs and Stranger at Home. Mm-hmm. There are also picture books that likely were mentioned in the elementary one when I was 8 and Not My Girl. And so I love these. This is Margaret Pokiak-Fenton's books, and it's her story of going to boarding school. So she's a Nupiaq. And I just love these stories, and I love the fact that there are picture books and these sort of
and the topic
chapter-ish books, so you can differentiate for different learners.
Mm-hmm.
But they are heartbreaking. They're empowering, they're filled with resilience. And I think as people try to figure out, like, how do I talk about boarding schools or in residential schools? I love these books and just can't, recommend them enough. And I think you could use them all through middle school.
Yeah, 6th grade. Yeah, definitely. I think I heard a story. Were you the one that told me the story about the author for Fatty Legs? And it was, I think there was an interview that I heard of the daughter of the author, or maybe
she's the daughter-in-law.
Daughter-in-law. Okay.
Yeah, and they have Oliman has since walked on, but very powerful relationship. They used to do things together. But I love, again, why I appreciate this is a really good collaboration between a Native writer and a non-Native writer. And I always like to honor that you can do it in a really good way.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a great example.
Yeah, it is. It is. Some of these are that I'm bringing out, and you might as well, I think, have some for the American Indian Youth Literature Awards. So that's been going on for many, many years with the American Indian Library Association. And these are the She Persisted are winners of 2024. So I have a few of 2024 and also I think 2022 maybe. But Wilma Mankiller and Deb Haaland, who is now running for New Mexico governor, possibly coming up, which is exciting.
I hadn't heard that, but we love that for Auntie Deb.
Oh, yes, for New Mexico especially. So these 2 books are really great. 2 women leaders and Wilma Mankiller. And so these are really well done. They're chapter books, but easy readers. So if you wanted something for like when the substitute comes in or whatever it may be that you wanted something a little bit easier. These are really, really great. Really well done in the She Persistent series.
There is a third one in there. Is it Maria Talchi?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I didn't have that one, but that was one of the winners as well.
Yeah.
I just don't have it. I don't know why.
I could have brought it.
Yeah. add to your pile.
I have them. But yeah, so folks know there is a third one. And they are a great read. And you and I didn't bring the Learner Publishing ones with Peggy Flanagan.
Oh, yeah.
And Charles Bender and Ella Deloria.
Yeah.
But those are like more of a Minnesota one.
Mm-hmm. And they're about the same, I would say, like reading level.
Yeah.
As those. Yes. But I think we should do a special episode on that one.
We should.
Yeah.
And what's exciting about that, if folks don't remember, because I'm sure I brought it up, Learner Publishing is re-releasing those 3 and then coming out with 9 more.
That is so exciting. So.
I just think, strong women. Let's write more books about strong women. They're
Native women. Yes. There's plenty of us. So that was my my first choice. What's next on your list?
So I've shared this one with folks before. The Gift is in the Making, Anishinaabe Stories. It's retold by Leanne Simpson. I fangirled so hard in one of my master's classes. Leanne was my professor, and I was just like, whoa. So she's amazing. But what I love about these stories is they're fun, 3 or 4 page, couple page stories, but they were stories she collected in community, and they naturally embed Anishinaabe in there, and the languages are in the back. But they have a lot of Indian humor, just like goofy, kind of quirky, fun stuff that when you read it, it just feels fun. And so I love to recommend this for middle school, 6th grade. Stories are short. They're easy to read. Even though there's some Anishinaabe in there, you can use context clues to figure it out. So I think it's entertaining. They're cultural, helps people, learn a little bit about it. But love this book, and recommend it to as many people as I possibly can. So
your go-to gift.
Yeah, I have. And sometimes it can be hard to find.
Oh.
This one I bought in Canada.
Oh,
and
okay.
I think you can find it at Birch Bark.
Okay.
But it can be a little tougher. Sometimes, great books just don't make it over the border.
I would believe that. Yeah. So my next one is Lay and the Fire Goddess. I chose this one just because I wanted something a little more fun. This is a young YA novel. It's a young girl, a warrior, becoming more of a warrior and having that spark within. And I feel what we kind of were talking about earlier, just some Native books tend to be on the heavier tone. And this is something that you can read that is engaging and kind of keeps you going through the chapters. So if you like the Hawaii vibe, this would be a good one to pick up. So yeah, Lay and the Fire Goddess. I think it's cute. Okay, next. Oh yeah, we were talking about this one. This is okay. My sister Alicia. I will. When we were talking over dinner, I said, "Hey, what would be your go-to book?" And she was like, "Oh, Tim Tingle." And so this was her recommendation. I'll give her a little shout out here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so thanks for bringing that one.
It is a great one. Tim Tingle, How I Became a Ghost. It's Choctaw Trail of Tears story. So what I love about this one is it's a great story, but the main character, he talks to his dog, and his dog talks back. And I love this idea of things aren't necessarily how you think they always are. Mm-hmm. I remember the elder and mentor that I had at Minneapolis Public, Ida, she and I would talk about when Native kids would often share things like, "Oh, I had a dream about my grandma," and the grandma had passed. And teachers were like, "Oh my gosh," or this child would be like, oh, I saw my grandma, and they'd freak out because they were like, you shouldn't be seeing dead people, right? And I'd be like, yeah, that's not weird for us. Like that's, there are cultural things that happen. And so this particular story, the boy starts seeing things that he has no, I don't even know how to say. It wouldn't make sense in mainstream American culture for him to be saying. To be saying. And it's such a good story. Such a good story. I don't want to ruin it for folks, but it's can be heartbreaking and beautiful. But I also really like it helps sort of share some of the traditions around taking care of the dead amongst Choctaw and sort of the beauty of caring for people after they've passed. And so that really resonated with me.
Yeah. And for my sister to bring this up as the first, me asking her, this is the first thought that came to her head was she's read so many books. And so for her to this immediately pop up for middle schoolers, I think that is that's a good what would we say? Like not report,
seal of approval.
Yeah. It's a good person to go by. So,
and I want to be clear, like, even though it talks about death, it's not like heavy and like, yes, there are heavy themes in it, but it isn't
at a level
I don't think it's going to harm people. And that's always like, how do we bring kids in safe and bring them back out safely?
Right.
So recommend this one a lot.
And I just love his name.
Right. The alliteration. Tim Tingle.
I know. I was like, whoever named him Tim was just like, good job.
Well, I'm married to a Tim and I've never met a Tim I don't like. So.
There you go. Okay. Well, next up on, so this is more of an easy, I would say like fifth grade, fifth grade. So a little bit more earlier, but the JoJo McCoons, this of course won the American Indian Youth Literature Awards. There's a couple here that I had. So there's the used to be best friend, Fancy Pants, and Snow Day. JoJo McCoons is written by Dawn Quigley. She lives here in Minnesota, and wonderful person, wonderful human. And these books are about a little Ojibwe girl. And so I think one of the things that I like about these books are that they are in an area, and I think I might have mentioned this before, but they're in an area where there isn't many Native books written at this grade level or this reading level. And so just really appreciate this series and how accessible they are. And so these get a mention from me today. And also supporting a Minnesota author. That's always wonderful.
And Dawn works at Fond du Lac Tribal College.
Yeah, and she was at
elementary ed.
Not St. Olaf. What was it?
St. Kate's.
St. Kate's, yes. She was a professor there. So wonderful person. And she was just drawn to talking about dreams and things. She had novels just kind of came to her and she's like, well, I better write them. And so she did. And so she has a few other books out too. Is it Apple in the Middle? Apple in the Middle is also a really good one for middle school. So check that one out as well. Yeah.
In the Footsteps of Crazy Horse by Joseph Marshall III. Love this one. Main character is getting bullied at school because he doesn't look Native enough. Like it's sort of this weird. And then Grandpa takes him on a road trip to help teach him about all of the important sites and the history and things that are important to him, and sort of fills him up with culture and language and the land. And love this one. Just, even like the way the text is written invites sort of a 4th, 5th grade, 6th grade level. And so, and it's a really good story, right?
That's that has been one that's been around for some time. and it's I would say a classic, getting to a classic level where so it's nice to be seeing that
2015.
Right.
So
that seems like forever ago. That's the year 10 years ago, and it was the year that my son was born, which long time ago, decade. So next one up, I have Native Women Changing the World. And one of a librarian is mentioned. And she was American Library Association president. So not American Indian, well, she was that too as well, I believe, but she was also the American Library Association president. So she was our first Native one. We do have a second Native American Library Association president now as well. And, but Lorene, I'm hoping I'm saying her name wrong because because I always say it wrong in my head. Dr. Lorene Roy, and she's out in Austin, Texas, and she's one of the chapters here. And I just love that a librarian is mentioned. She's done amazing work for us in the library world. And so if you want to, this just is just shorts on different folks that are leaders in our communities. So yeah, definitely check this one out for your social studies or whatever you have coming up.
Do they list the other books in the series? Because they have several of those. They have like,
oh, really?
Trailblazers. They have sports. I think there's music.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Now I'm picturing
there's a whole series.
Oh, yeah. Native men of courage, Native elders, Native writers, Native musicians, Native women of courage, Native athletes in action. Yeah.
So it's just, it's handy. There's little pieces on everyone.
I'm glad they're doing I didn't know they did a music one. I was struggling with music. I feel like that's one thing that is lacking with Nate. We have so many folks in music, but as far as like resources and materials, I'd like to see more in that area. So that's good that they have a music one. Thanks, Odia.
I know that I have mentioned these two books. The Night Wanderer, and then there is a graphic novel. Again, love that differentiation. So Drew Hayden Taylor, this is a vampire story, but it's really identity, coming home, figuring it out. The main character is a teenager, just, sort of the struggles of like trying to fit in, especially into non-native community. And I just enjoy it. I think this one could, maybe 8th grade, but definitely bleed into 9th and 10th grade. But just a really good story. And this one, when we talk about classics, when did this one come out? 2007. And so I enjoy it. And it's funny because it was like, oh yeah, vampires. Remember we went through that whole like Twilight and vampires.
Oh my goodness.
It is not that. This is not like a vampire romance, but highly recommend it. And like I said, I love the duality of having the two different
vampires. I was a part of what was it? Brad Pitt and
Interview with a Vampire. Well, Anne Rice, right?
Yes, I was like through that thing. Yeah, it totally was on everybody's show. So the next one that I have is Byron Graves' Resball. This, of course, another American Indian Youth Literature Award winner. He is from Red Lake, and just it's a great novel. I think it's based on more of his personal kind of experiences and basketball and how just to continue on and so forth. So Resball is a great book to check out for middle school. Yeah,
and there's a ton of basketball related things out there.
Oh yeah,
right. Like when I lived on Haida Gwaii in northern British Columbia, like they had their big basketball tournament in Arizona. There's think there's a documentary about Chinley.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. It was on Netflix, I think. Yeah.
But it's like all of these, basketball related things.
Right.
And the community around the team
Resball.
and Resball.
Yes.
So it's a thing.
It is. It totally is. Yeah. And so keeping our kids engaged in sports and so forth, and basketball is a big deal on the res. And so.
Oh, you talk about that one.
Okay.
I love We Still Belong.
Okay. All right. Well,
I was glad you brought that one.
Okay. So she also award winner and gave the most beautiful speech. What a lovely, lovely person. It was just so adorable. Her little daughter was running around her knees at the same time. And so We Still Belong. And she was talking about the support that she got for this. And people, when I talk to people about this book, they just say they can't put it down. It's a really great read. And so it's just, it's a really great book. And I don't think this is something that it like you always think, oh, that's a girl's book, or you try to but I think it just gives such good insight regardless of, who's reading it. So
I like that one for especially Indigenous Peoples Day, because that's what that day is. Like, essentially the book is all about Indigenous Peoples Day.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it'll do flashes, back and things like that. But identity, blood quantum, great, expectations by non-native teachers, pressures of going to school, and there's a little bit of romance in there. Like, there's a little bit of trying to figure it out as a teenager.
Right. So wonderful book for middle schoolers. And I just love that when the authors themselves are wonderful people too. It just is like icing on the cake. So,
and there's no trauma in that one. Like,
right.
There's no sexual violence or swearing or, drug use. And sometimes that's, you and I were talking off camera about the challenges of sometimes books can be really
heavy and needing their own, therapy.
Right.
So this is a wonderful book, and definitely pick this one up and add to your library or your classroom.
Speaking of books that aren't rife with trauma, this is the uncorrected copy of Anton Triar's Werewolves Don't Die. The whole cover actually just looks like this, but he gifted me with an early copy. And we talked about this, when we go in the way back, again, one of our earlier episodes, we got to spend with Anton. I like this book. It is listed as a thriller, and sorry, Anton, I don't think it's a thriller. What I do think it is a beautiful coming of age story, connecting to culture, sort of figuring out the challenges of losing a parent and grief and trying to figure things out, which I think a lot of YA is about. Like, how do we navigate, right? How do we navigate the shifting world, with the shift within us?
Yes. Oh my goodness.
And so I think this one's great. There's, little bit of romance, little bit of conflict, but I love it for the connection to land, the use of language. And I don't know if I mentioned it when Anton was on here. I can tell Anton's a bit of a nerd because he'll list things and he's not like, it's just trees, right? It'll be like, he'll list the names of the trees. So like my nerdy naturalist, I was like he's describing all the, the biodiversity of the trees. And I love that because, we notice those things. Yeah. And so I appreciated that. So I love this one, probably like an 8th grade, could pull it into 9th or 10th. But again, I'm not worried about hurting anybody with this one. And it is a longer read. I think in that it is compelling enough that even younger readers would be like, oh yeah, I want to read all 303 pages of this to see how it all comes together.
And if you divide it up,
Yeah.
it's completely doable. I don't think that 300 is totally, but I'll mention a couple ones just really quickly. So just playing off of Anton's book here, Eagle Drums, and I did learn how to say their name, but I can't recall it. They were a winner for the American Indian Youth Literature Awards and in 2024, and I had to get up as the current president at the time, and I have to say, in all my years, that was the hardest thing I've ever done, is getting up and announcing the Lit Awards. And I just wanted to be so intentional about saying everyone's name right. And my friend Hannah will attest to this. She was up helping me the night before, just practicing everybody's name. But this was quite some time ago now. But Eagle Drums is a winner. Really great book about a young boy just going through, and also with spirits, and sort of like kind of going off of what the other, is it Tim Tingle we were talking about? And and then Heroes of the Water Monster. This is by Brian Young, a Navajo. Another really wonderful novel.
And there's a sequel.
There is, yes.
Healer of the Water Monster.
Yes. So pick up any. I would start with the first one, but definitely. And so a great writer, again for middle school, and these two are again on the longer side a little bit, but not entirely too long. And but both of these authors really did a great job for the novels. And I was going to say novels, but novels. And I'll just jump really quickly to this one because we're getting close on time. But I always rave about Wap Canoe. So I have one for middle school and I have one for high school. But the title is Walking in Two Worlds, and it just gives the experience sort of, so it might be a good companion to Christine Day's book. But just the experiences, and Wap Canoe is he's a wonderful leader in Canada, in Manitoba. And I've known him. I don't know if I could say known him, but I've met him really early on in my 20s. And so he is just an amazing, amazing human doing really wonderful work. I believe his title is Premier.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. You would know.
Yep.
I get all confused with Canada. Yeah. But so he did a really great YA novel. So definitely pick this one up for the different experiences of walking in two worlds. I
do want you to talk about your remaining two.
Oh, okay. Just really quickly. So Rain is not my Indian name. So Cynthia Leidig-Smith is just a powerhouse.
Yeah.
If anything, this is one of the books that
I adore that book.
So I just love when I get confirmation from you. Because Odia and I, we are friends, offline, and I consider her kind of like a sounding board, so it makes me feel good. But yeah, Cynthia Leidig-Smith does really great work.
Heart Drum, if you're familiar with HarperCollins.
So anything, Cynthia does, she is such a terribly hard worker for Native people and publishing and work. So
and connected to so many other powerhouse writers, Native writers.
She's just, So any of the books with Heart Drum, wonderful. And
Rain is not my Indian name, deals with some grief and loss and identity and figuring out how to be Native and, loss of a parent, like all kinds of things again, but not so sad and heavy that it's not safe for kids. Like, it's beautiful. I love that book.
And I like the feel of it.
Mhm.
It's so really great finding everything on this one. And then this one is just it kind of reminds me of when I read, like, what is it, The Hatchet or whatever.
Yeah.
So this is kind of maybe a little nostalgic, but like these books, the Case of the Rigged Race. There's
four.
Four.
My favorite title is The Case of the Burgled Bundle. And that one just cracks me up, but I love the alliteration.
Right. And so these are fun.
And they're called Mighty Muskrat Mysteries. Like, how can you not just be like, ooh.
Right. Yeah.
Michael Hutchinson was at NIA as well.
Oh, okay. Gosh, yeah. I'm totally missing out.
Yeah, they do some cool stuff.
Yeah.
So definitely recommend that, all of them.
Yeah. It's just fun, to get, and I am a total mystery kind of reader too. So
I'll do one more. I can actually move these
to
another one. I mentioned Three Feathers in, I think it was the Love episode. Still recommend this one. I love it. I did want to have at least one other graphic novel. Big fan of them. I know there was always the debate like, are graphic novels, are they really novels? And I was like, yes. Let people read them.
Yes.
Again, appreciate this one because it is about young people misbehaving and then atoning for that and figuring it out and becoming better people. And Richard Van Camp, if folks don't know Richard, again, prolific writer.
Classic.
But his stuff is all good. Great name. Look it up. And then The Marrow Thieves became sort of like a big run.
Yeah.
It was St. Paul's one read, 2019 maybe.
That one was a hard read for. I had to stop. So this one, I would say, and maybe I'm a little overly sensitive to some things, but this one, I would say definitely check in with your Native students or, piece by piece it sometimes.
And this one could be for 8th grade, but definitely suitable for 9th and 10th.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to put this out, and they have Cherie has a sequel called Hunting by Stars, which I've actually heard is even better than this one. And again, it's on my TBR pile that I haven't read. I had a really bad ugly cry at the end of this. You probably know. Did you get to it?
Yes, I had
such an ugly cry, and it was a friend of mine was reading it, and I was like, "Buddy, just call me when you're done." And he called me. He was like, "Oh my god, I was not expecting that." And so, but this one is
well written,
and potentially might not bring your kids out safely if you don't handle it well.
Right. Just to allude to it a little bit.
So essentially the premise of the book is non-Native people can no longer dream.
Mm-hmm.
So they have determined that Native people have something special within them that can be extracted and then therefore given to the non-dreamers. And so the idea is likening it to the way the culture was sucked out of Native folks during residential schools. So this is very like the institution stripping Native people of their lifeblood.
Again.
So it's a post-apocalyptic, but it's, importance of elders, surviving, resilience, overcoming oppression. So there's all sorts of things with a kind of a crazy post-apocalyptic spin.
Right. Just some, and maybe not entirely out of the box thinking of some things like dreaming and those things that make us humans. Right. And it does make you think and feel the emotions.
And like this idea of like, what are the things mainstream culture wants to suck out of Native folks or take credit for? So in there's
some things that, that we wanted to say that we really appreciate the listeners and the viewers that are taking the time for this podcast. And it's something that's very important to us and our communities, our people. And please, if you can, share this with your school districts, with your colleagues, and hopefully get some of these books on your shelves if you don't currently have them. And just really appreciate people's time.
Yeah.
And hope you enjoyed going through all these books as much as we do.
Well, I'm just grateful for the new titles that you provided. So just spoiler for me, or a little insight into me, when I'm stressed out, I tend to go to YA books because I feel like, I can just check out and read something a little bit lighter and, let someone else have problems in their lives, right? And so I tend to go for these. So I'm excited that I just feel like right now it's winter and it's like dark and gloomy. And, a lot of us are caught up in our feelings right now that I think, dive into a fun
Christine
middle
Day
school or Christine Day. And then share it with young people and educators and talk about good books, right?
Yeah. YA is for all ages. Don't ever think like just because we're saying middle school, it only can be middle school. Definitely this is high school, or if you have a reader that's interested in elementary, these are just kind of the general area of middle school that aligns with some of the educational
goals and developmental pieces.
Right, exactly. So, but this was, it was nice to go through these books because it kind of brought me back to middle school and
middle school without the trauma.
Oh, right. It was like, what was I reading? And, the Hatchet and, started thinking of all these other books. So I really had fun with this.
Yeah.
Hope you did too.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Books Are Good Medicine. Subscribe to our channel on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can also visit our website, booksaregoodmedicine.com, to find episodes and resources or to send us a comment. This podcast is sponsored by the Shakopee, Metawakan, and Sioux community and produced by Goff Public. Our theme music is Stomp Dance by Blue Dog. The opinions expressed on the Books Are Good Medicine podcast by its co-hosts and guests are their own in their personal capacities and do not necessarily reflect the views of any organization with whom they are affiliated or of the podcast sponsor.